For the longest time, I've been fascinated by the history of railways on the Isle of Wight, and I remember being curious to see the Ryde Pier Head to Shanklin route come to Train Sim World, even though the add-on was developed by Rivet Games. A while back, I looked at the updated version of this route, called Island Line 2022, and have since been lucky enough to go to the Isle of Wight and ride on the Island Line in real life. I'll eventually get around to making a video about that adventure, but for now, here are my 2 cents on the original version of the TSW route. The original Isle of Wight add-on was released in October 2020, back when TSW2 was the newest iteration of the game. As of late July 2025, the route is still available to buy on Steam, where the version compatible with the, soon-to-be-obsolete, Train Sim World 5 costs $36 New Zealand dollars, or £16, at full price. That's the same as the recently released Class 86. Go figure. Incidentally, I remember Jeff Marshall mentioning this add-on in a video he made about the Bakerloo line, when he went to Dovetail's headquarters to play TSW2 and interview Matt Peddleston himself. If you don't count that stupid Holiday Express thing, then I'm pretty sure Isle of Wight is the shortest route in the game, as you only get the 8.5 miles, or 13.7 kilometres, of track from Ryde Pier Head to Shanklin, with intermediate stops at Ryde Esplanade, Ryde St John's Road, Smallbrook Junction, Brading, Sandown, and Lake. If I recall correctly, Rivet surveyed the real line in either 2019 or 2020, not long before the Class 483 EMUs were retired. Annoyingly, the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, from Smallbrook Junction to Wootton, is not included on either version of the route in TSW. The Isle of Wight's railway history is quite complicated, too much so to explain it all in this video, but I'll still explain a little bit of it for context. Regular steam operations on the island ended on the 31st of December 1966, after which the Ryde Pier Head to Shanklin section was electrified. This was the only part of the island's once extensive rail network to remain in use after the steam locomotive's retirement, and British Rail famously used former London Underground trains on the route due to the restrictive clearance of Ryde Tunnel. The Class 483s, formerly 1938 tube stock, were the second generation of older tube trains to run on the Isle of Wight, first entering service there in 1989 to replace the older Class 485 and Class 486 units, otherwise known as standard stock. This was despite the fact that the 1938 stock had already worked for at least 50 years on the London Underground. But regardless, 18 coaches, enough to make 9 two-car sets, were refurbished for island service. The 483s ran on the Isle of Wight for many years, and became well known for being the oldest trains still in regular revenue-earning service in the UK at the time. The final operational units were withdrawn in January 2021, by which time the oldest surviving member of the class was a staggering 82 years old. After a long modernisation project, the Island Line reopened in November 2021, and is still going strong today with services now run by a third generation of former tube trains, in the form of heavily rebuilt D78 stock, now designated as Class 484. As much as I don't like Rivet Games as developers, they still deserve some credit where it's due, and personally, I think they did a good job with the modelling on the Class 483, especially when compared to the original RSC model in TS Classic, where I always thought the cab fronts just didn't look right. Come to think of it, this is currently the only train in Network Southeast colours that we have in TSW. The Class 483 is a fairly easy unit to set up and drive, with a similar setup process to the 1972 tube stock on the Bakerloo line. The first thing to do is insert the master key and switch it on. Then switch on the headlights, insert the reverser, and move it to the desired direction of travel. After all that, you can either release the brakes and get moving, or open the doors if you haven't done that yet. Another thing you can do is blast the whistle, while some of the NPCs just stand around instead of getting on the train. Incidentally, you can also control the saloon lights from this panel of buttons as the inner end of one of the coaches. This is where the guard would stand, and speaking of which, the Class 483 is still not compatible with TSW5's guard mode, and I doubt she ever will be. Driving this unit is an unusual experience, mainly because of the bizarre sight of a tube train running in an environment that differs drastically from the London Underground. Indeed, the vast majority of the Island line is out in the open, and the only part that's in tunnels is that one short section in Ryde. One of the issues I have with the Class 483 is her complete lack of realistic suspension physics. These things were known for their poor ride quality, especially in their final years of service. And I don't know about you, but personally, I think the 483's physics are overpowered, especially where the brakes are concerned. Timetable mode only features 68 playable services for the Class 483, and these consist almost entirely of regular passenger services between Ryde Pier Head and Shanklin, although these alternate between 20 and 40 minute intervals due to the lack of a passing loop at Brading, with either Sandown or Ryde St John's Road being the crossing point instead. There's also empty stock movements out of or back to the depot at the start and end of the day. For reference, it only takes between 25 and 29 minutes to complete a full-length run of this route, and its complete lack of freight services is realistic. I think it's about time I addressed the elephant in the room, by which I'm referring to Rivet's choice of livery for the Class 483. While this rendition of the Network Southeast livery is not bad by any means, it is simply incorrect for the time period in which the route is set. Fortunately, reskins of the more recent London Transport Heritage livery, with yellow ends, are available to download from the Creators Club, although, if you load a service with that livery, it will only appear on the player train, and not the AI train as well. I'm not sure if there's a way to enable custom liveries to appear on all trains by default. As for the sounds on the Class 483 and TSW, let's just say that they leave a lot to be desired. I mean, this is a Rivet Games product after all, and they have historically done a poor job with the train sounds. Another elephant in the room is the lack of static trains in the depot at Ryde St John's Road, whose emptiness in this original version contributes to the route feeling rather lifeless. Come to think of it, if Rivet could add static trains in the depot sidings for Island Line 2022, why have they still not updated the original with static 483s? Meanwhile, the Isle of Wight is so close to the city of Portsmouth that you can easily see the latter from Ryde Pier in real life. However, there's no depiction of Portsmouth in the game, and it looks like you're staring out into a blank ocean. As for the water texture, It's much better now than how it was when the route was first released. The scenery is quite poor throughout the route, in stark contrast to the more recent routes from Just Trains and a Train Sim Germany. Specific cases of poor scenery that I noticed were the empty roads near Ryde Esplanade, two buildings copied and pasted multiple times on what's supposed to be St John's Road, a big empty field with no proper foliage around a mile north of Brading, deserted streets and basic houses right next to the track south of Brading, even more copied and pasted buildings between Sandown and Shanklin, and the hideously barren distant hills south of Shanklin Station. Personally, I think the worst bit of scenery on this route is what you see surrounding Shanklin Station. It doesn't take a genius to see that this depiction of the nearby Regent Street is objectively abysmal, because it looks nothing like the real street, and I say that as someone who actually walked a fair way along there in real life. It's as if Rivet didn't even try to do a good job on scenery. Overall, I'm not impressed with Rivet Games' original Isle of Wight add-on for Train Sim World, and I say that mainly because of the poor sounds on the Class 483, lack of static trains at the depot, bad scenery, and the train's livery being incorrect for the route's time period. If you're still interested in getting the Ryde to Shanklin route in TSW, I would recommend the Island Line 2022 pack over the original, for it has better station details and more areas that you can explore on foot outside the stations, such as the signal box at Brading, although the levers are not functional, the Steam Railway's ticket office at Smallbrook Junction, although you can see the NPC spawn point in there, and the overbridge between Ryde Esplanade Station and the tunnel, which is just next to the hovercraft terminal. As for where I would rate the original Isle of Wight add-on, I think I'll give it a 3.5 out of 10.